My sister managed to convince our parents to transfer the house to her, and I could practically hear the victory in her laugh. Now you're homeless, she sneered. I thought she had one, but then the lawyer spoke up, a smirk on his face. Actually, that house was never theirs to give, he said. When my sister heard who the real owner was, she froze in shock. I was standing in the living room, watching my sister grin smugly. She had her arms crossed, her head slightly tilted, that same self-satisfied smirk on her face. She always wore that expression when she thought she'd won. Looks like you're out of luck, she taunted, dragging out the words. Mom and Dad signed the house over to me this morning. It's mine now. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. This was my childhood home, the place where I learned to walk, where we celebrated birthdays, where I had long late-night chats with my mom in the kitchen. And now my sister was standing there, grinning as she told me I had no place to go. She even laughed, enjoying the moment like a victorious queen. You should have been smarter, she added, her voice dripping with superiority. You should have seen this coming. I couldn't believe it. My eyes turned to my parents, searching for some defense, for some hint of remorse, but my mom wouldn't even look at me. My dad just sighed, rubbing his forehead, avoiding my gaze. They had willingly handed it over. Why would you do this? My voice shook, but I fought to stay calm. Why would you give her the house? You know I live here. You know I've been the one taking care of everything. Finally, my mom glanced at me, but there was no apology in her eyes, only exhaustion. She's family, she said, her voice flat. She's family too, I snapped. This is my house, just as much as it is yours. My sister snorted. She corrected, not anymore. I had done everything for this house. When Dad got sick, I was the one taking him to appointments. When Mom couldn't make ends meet, I stepped up. I had spent my time, my money, and my energy keeping this place together, and now my sister, who had never once done anything for anyone, had just taken it from me. I clenched my fists. This isn't over, I warned her. She rolled her eyes, clearly dismissive. Oh, it is, legally, it's mine now. You can't change that, and honestly, you're almost 40, it's pathetic that you're still living here. My hands were trembling, I could barely breathe. She had no clue what she'd just done, and she had no idea what was coming for her. What she didn't know, what none of them had bothered to check, was that the house wasn't theirs to give, and when the lawyer smirked, I knew I had already won. I stopped arguing. I didn't scream or beg for answers. I simply stood there, watching her smile, believing she had won, because she thought she had. She thought she had outsmarted me, manipulated our parents into giving her what she wanted, taking the one thing that mattered. She had no idea what she had done. I took a deep breath. All right, I said, my voice calm. If that's how you want to play this. Her smile faltered, just for a second, but she quickly recovered. Oh, it's not about how I want to play, she said confidently. The paperwork's done. You can cry all you want, but you can't change legal ownership. She honestly believed she had cornered me. I turned on my heel, walking out without slamming the door or losing control. I simply got in my car and drove straight to my lawyer's office. My sister may have spent months scheming, but she made one huge mistake. She hadn't checked the actual ownership of the house. Mr. Reynolds, my lawyer, was an older man who had seen it all. When I told him what happened, he leaned back in his chair, folding his hands across his stomach. Let me get this straight, he said slowly. Your parents signed the house over to your sister? I nodded. This morning? He asked. I nodded again. And they think they had the legal right to do that? He pressed. I nodded once more. That's when Mr. Reynolds smirked, a slow, knowing smile that told me I was about to win. Actually, he said, tapping his pen against his desk, that house was never theirs to give. A chill ran down my spine. What do you mean? He opened his drawer, pulled out a thick folder, and placed it in front of me. Want to know who actually owns the house? I stared at him, my heart pounding. He opened the file and pointed to a document. You do. I blinked. What? Your grandfather left it to you in his will, he explained. He slid the paper closer to me. Legally, that house has been yours since he passed away. Your parents never owned it. They had the right to live there, but they didn't have the right to transfer ownership. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. All these years, I'd assumed my parents owned the house. It never even occurred to me to check the deed, but my grandfather, who had always favored me over my sister and had seen the kind of person she was, had left the house to me, and my sister had no idea. I exhaled slowly. So what happens now? Mr. Reynolds' smirk widened. Now, we have some fun. My sister's world is about to crumble. I didn't go home that night. I stayed with a friend and let my lawyer handle things. The next morning, he filed a cease and desist order, preventing my sister from making any changes to the property. No selling, no renovations, no moving in. That's when she called me. I didn't answer the first 3 times. On the 4th, I picked up. "What the hell did you do?" she screamed. I leaned back in my chair. "What do you mean?" She was furious. "The lawyer called me. He said I can't touch the house. He said it's not mine." I let the silence stretch just long enough to make her sweat before I responded. "That's because it never was." She went silent. "You really should have checked the ownership before you pulled that stunt," I continued, "because legally, that house has been mine for years." "No," she whispered, "that's not possible." "Oh, it is," I said. "I have the papers to prove it. Grandpa left it to me, not Mom and Dad, and certainly not you." Her breath hitched, and I could practically hear her scrambling for an explanation. No, that's a lie. Mom and Dad, they didn't own it." I interrupted. "They thought they did, but they were wrong." I heard a small gasp on the other end, whether from shock or rage, I couldn't tell. "Now," I said calmly, "you have 2 choices. 1, admit you made a mistake, back off, and we pretend this never happened. Or 2, I paused, you push your luck, and we take this to court." "You wouldn't," she whispered. I laughed. "Oh, I absolutely would, and if this goes to court, you'll lose." For the first time, my sister had nothing to say. She had spent so long manipulating people, twisting our parents against each other, playing her games, but now, she realized she had already lost. The next morning, my sister stormed into my lawyer's office. She yelled, she threatened, and even tried to claim that I had stolen the house. Mr. Reynolds remained calm, letting her dig her own grave. After my sister finished her tirade, the lawyer leaned forward, tapped the legal documents on his desk, and coolly advised her, "You might want to leave now before you make things worse." And that was when it hit her. She sank into the chair, her face drained of color. For the first time, she looked utterly defeated. "This isn't right," she murmured. I folded my arms, meeting her gaze. Neither was trying to steal my house. Her eyes welled with tears as she looked at me, but I already told everyone the house was mine. I had plans. I tilted my head. "That's a you problem." She opened her mouth, closed it again, and that's when I knew, the reality had set in, she had lost. For the next few days, my sister went radio silent. No texts, no calls, no nothing. I thought maybe, just maybe, she had finally accepted her defeat. I should have known better. People like her don't just give up, they find a new way to hurt you, and I was about to find out just how low she could go. It all started with my parents. One morning, they showed up at my door, knocking like they still had some claim to the place. I could have ignored them, but I knew they wouldn't leave until I faced them. So, I opened the door. My mom shot me a look as if I had betrayed her. "How could you do this to your sister?" I let out a bitter laugh. "Are you serious? She's family." My dad muttered, shaking his head. "You're really going to throw her out over some paperwork?" I stared at them, trying to process their complete lack of self-awareness. "A paperwork issue?" I echoed. "She tried to steal my house." "She didn't steal it," my mom retorted sharply. "We gave it to her." "And you had no right to do that," I countered. "You're giving away something that never belonged to you in the first place." They didn't answer because they knew deep down that I was right, but my mom wasn't done yet. She softened her voice, playing the victim, and said, "Look, your sister made a mistake, okay? But that doesn't mean you should punish her, just let her stay." I almost laughed in her face. "Let her stay? In my house?" "Yes," my dad chimed in, crossing his arms. "It's not like you're married or have kids, you don't need all this space." "Oh," I said, a sarcastic smile on my face. "So this is what this is about. You've decided I don't deserve the house. My sister, the golden child, needs it more than I do, and you think I'm supposed to just accept that?" I took a deep breath to calm my boiling anger. "Let me make this clear, she's never setting foot in this house again, and neither are you." When the day for the hearing arrived, I walked into the courtroom with my lawyer, calm and collected. She arrived, all smug and confident, clearly sure the judge would side with her. For the first 5 minutes, she maintained her act, explaining how our parents had given her the house, how I was making things difficult, how I was being petty. The judge listened, and then my lawyer stood up, revealing the truth. He pulled out the actual deed to the house, proving I was the rightful owner. He showed the will from my grandfather, confirming that the house had been left to me, and then he dropped the bombshell: my sister had filed a fraudulent eviction notice. The judge's face hardened. Miss, are you aware that filing false documents is a serious crime? My sister's face drained of color. You filed an eviction notice against the legal owner of the property, the judge continued. That is fraud. My sister stammered, glancing at my parents, but for the first time, even they couldn't help her. She had lost, and this time, she was losing everything. The courtroom fell silent. My sister looked like she was about to faint. My parents sat frozen, pale as ghosts. The judge tapped her pen against the desk, her gaze fixed on my sister. Miss, she said, you knowingly submitted false documents in an attempt to remove the rightful owner from their home. That's a criminal offense. My sister opened her mouth, but no sound came out. The judge continued, I'm ruling in favor of the defendant. The house legally belongs to him. Furthermore, I'm referring this case for criminal charges of fraud and perjury. That was it. The moment everything fell apart for her, she turned to me, panic in her eyes. You wouldn't let them charge me, would you? I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. Why shouldn't I? Tears welled up in her eyes. I didn't mean. I wasn't trying to hurt you, I tilted my head, my voice steady. You laughed at me when you thought you won. You told me I had nowhere to go. She fell silent. She knew I was right. The judge closed the case, dismissing my sister's false claims and confirming that she would face an investigation for fraud. But I wasn't finished. My parents still needed to be held accountable for their part in this. After the hearing, they cornered me outside. My mom was crying, her eyes pleading. You can't do this to her. I scoffed. She did it to herself. She's facing criminal charges now. My dad snapped. And whose fault is that? I fired back. I didn't tell her to forge documents. I didn't tell her to steal from me. That was her choice. But she's your sister, my mom insisted. I clenched my teeth. And I'm your son. But that didn't stop you from trying to kick me out of my own house, did it? They had no response. So, I hit them with the final blow. You know what? I said, tilting my head. Since you're so concerned about her, why don't you take her in? I paused. Because she sure as hell isn't coming back to my house. My mom gasped. You wouldn't. Oh, I would, I said, pulling out my phone. In fact, I had my lawyer draft up an eviction notice for both of you. My dad's face turned crimson. You can't evict your own parents. Why not? I shot back. You didn't seem to have an issue trying to do it to me. There was only silence. My mom began to cry, shaking her head in disbelief. Where will we go? I shrugged. Not my problem. They had made their choice. They chose my sister over me. Now, they had nothing. The eviction went through. They fought it, but had no legal ground to stand on. They packed up and left, moving into a tiny apartment on the outskirts of town. As for my sister, she faced charges. The court didn't go easy on her, either. She ended up with a hefty fine and a criminal record. And the best part? Her perfect image, the one she used to manipulate everyone, crumbled. People now talked about how she tried to steal from her own brother and failed miserably. The sweetest revenge. I still live in my house. It's quiet now, peaceful, no more fights, no more betrayal, just me, finally enjoying what was always meant to be mine. My parents and sister? I don't hear from them much, but now and then, I get updates. My sister is struggling to find work. My parents regret their choices. They whisper about how they lost everything. And you know what? I don't feel bad, not even a little. They tried to destroy my life, and all they did was ruin their own. Thanks for watching. Stay stunned. See you next time.